When we talk about public education today, it feels like the conversation always swings negative, right? We hear so much about funding cuts, widening gaps between students, schools struggling.
Right.
It's easy to get bogged down in what's broken.
It really is. And that narrative can feel overwhelming, almost like the problems are just too big to fix.
Exactly. But there's this really interesting strategic shift happening that flips that narrative. The NAACP isn't just fighting against harmful policies anymore. They've actually committed serious resources to a proactive vision.
Yeah, it's quite a pivot.
They're actively searching for the bright spots, the public schools where Black students are already achieving, succeeding at a really high level.
Right. And this vision isn't just an idea, it's become a full campaign. It's called the Best Academic Practice Models for Black Students campaign. And what's fascinating, as you said, is how it fundamentally shifts the policy discussion. We move away from just, debating deficits and problems.
And arguing about what's wrong.
Exactly. And instead, the focus is on championing solutions that are already proven, documented solutions. It's evidence-based. The whole idea is to build this positive, successful alternative that hopefully can be copied elsewhere.
That sounds incredibly ambitious. I mean, moving from just playing defense to actively going on offense, showing what's actually possible right now.
That's a good way to put it.
So, okay, let's unpack this a bit. What's the core mission here, and how are they actually trying to build this alternative using, real evidence?
Well, the core mission is pretty straightforward on paper. Identify, document, and then promote schools where Black students are hitting high academic marks. But the key is how. This isn't some top-down think tank thing. It's grassroots.
Oh, yeah.
It's powered by community volunteers, parents, people on the ground. The idea is to take local successes and build them into a national playbook. Because the underlying belief is success isn't just luck. It comes from specific policies and practices.
Right, which leads perfectly into the campaign's main goals. There are three, right?
Yes, 3 core goals.
And the first seems to be about changing that negative story we started with, finding what works. It sounds like it's dedicated to shifting the conversation from, oh, it's all failing, to, look, excellence is happening right now.
Precisely. Proving that it's possible in public schools, if they have the right support and structure, it counters that narrative of inevitable failure.
Okay, so they find these schools. What's next? Just pointing to them isn't enough, is it?
No, definitely not. And that brings us to the second goal. Create a playbook for success. Once they identify a successful school, they really dig in systematically.
How so?
They work to figure out the specific strategies, the curriculum choices, the teaching methods, the school policies, whatever it is that's making the difference.
Ah, so they're documenting the how.
Exactly. That documentation becomes the best practice proof. It's concrete evidence showing what's achievable with the right resources and focus. It's not theoretical anymore.
Got it. And the third piece must be getting that information out there.
Yes, the final goal is share the secrets. Dissemination is critical. The ultimate aim is to make all these findings, these playbooks, easily accessible to everyone.
So like a central resource.
Yeah, creating a central hub of proven strategies. They also talk about mentorship programs, connecting successful schools with schools that need help, and then using all this evidence to advocate for wider adoption, for systemic change, making sure every school gets the tools and inspiration.
Okay, this is more than just a campaign with goals. You mentioned earlier they have a plan, a process.
Yes, it's very methodical, a 4-stage action plan to actually make this vision a reality.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Stage 1, they become data detectives.
That's a great way to describe it. That's the foundation. This stage relies heavily on those local NAACP volunteers we talked about.
Okay.
They use public record requests, Freedom of Information Act requests, things like that, to hunt for schools, meeting very specific data-driven criteria. And importantly, they're looking for comprehensive success, not just a one-off good test score a year.
So what does that mean, comprehensive success? What are the actual metrics?
They need schools to clear high bars on both state assessments and local performance metrics. Sustained performance.
Okay, state and local. Let's break that down. What's the state standard?
For the state standard, they require that at least 50% of Black students in that school are proficient on the mandatory state tests.
50% proficiency. Okay, that sets a pretty high baseline.
It does. It filters out schools where maybe only a small fraction are succeeding on those big tests.
But you said there's a local standard too, and this one sounds, well, quite rigorous.
It is. This is crucial. The local standard is that the school must achieve a 2.0 GPA or higher overall for its students.
Wait, a 2.0 GPA. We need to pause on that because that sounds simple, but the way they define it is intense.
Exactly. It's not just an average C. In this context, achieving a 2.0 GPA specifically means 0D or F grades. No failing grades awarded.
Wow. So no student is getting D's or F's. That's a very high bar indeed. It means the school isn't letting kids fall through the cracks, even if others are excelling.
Precisely. It's a mechanism to ensure they're looking at schools where success is broad-based, not just concentrated among a few high achievers while others are failing. That dual metric, 50% proficiency and essentially no failing grades, really hones in on schools demonstrating holistic, sustained achievement for the majority of their Black students.
Okay, so that's stage one. Find the schools that clear these tough data hurdles. What happens in stage two? Documenting the magic.
That's right. Once a bright spot is confirmed through the data, stage 2 is where the qualitative deep dive happens. Volunteers and experts collaborate directly with the school. This isn't an outside critique, it's a partnership.
To do what, exactly?
To uncover and document the specific replicable strategies and policies, they're essentially trying to reverse engineer the success.
Figure out the magic.
Yeah, what makes this school work so well? Is it the environment? Specific curriculum choices, teacher training, scheduling, parent engagement. They look at everything.
And the goal is a plug-and-play toolkit for parents and local leaders. What might actually be in that toolkit? Can you give an example?
Sure, it can be quite varied. Maybe they document how a school successfully implemented, say, mandatory cultural competency training for all staff, and they provide the training materials. Or perhaps they found a unique, effective system for in-school tutoring that prevents students from falling behind to the point of failing the system that helps them meet that 2.0 GPA standard.
Ah, I see.
The toolkit would then include maybe the tutoring schedules, the training guides for tutors, how they funded it, really practical stuff. The idea is that a parent or a local NAACP branch could take this toolkit to their own school board and say, look, this works, here's how they did it, let's implement this here.
That makes it incredibly concrete, not just abstract ideas.
Exactly.
But okay, having the toolkit is one thing. Getting schools, especially ones that might be resistant or under-resourced, to actually use it is another challenge. How do they tackle that?
That's where the next two stages come in, stages 3 and 4. They connect that local discovery to broader, even national impact. Stage 3 is about building a library of success. All those findings, the case studies, the toolkits, they don't just sit in one place. They're centralized and shared widely. Put on local, state, and national NAACP websites, made easily accessible to any parent, educator, or advocate who needs them.
So building the resource base. And stage 4.
Stage 4 is advocating for change. This is where they use the evidence they've gathered. Now they're armed with undeniable proof of what works, developed within the public system itself, not some outside theory.
Right, they can say this isn't hypothetical.
Precisely. They use this evidence, the data, the successful playbooks, to push for systemic reform. They engage with policymakers, school boards, state legislatures, demanding the resources and policy changes needed to replicate these successful models. It becomes a tool for accountability. They can say, we know this is possible because it's happening here. Why isn't it happening everywhere? What needs to change?
And what really strikes me about this whole 4-stage process is who is doing the work. You've emphasized its grassroots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's fundamental to its credibility and, hopefully, its sustainability. This isn't run by some external consulting firm. The engine, the real champions, are the NAACP volunteers. Dedicated parents, students themselves, youth leaders, family members, educators, concerned citizens, they drive the work locally and at the state level.
They're the ones digging into the data, monitoring the schools.
Yes. They initiate the record of requests, analyze the findings, and often are the first point of contact with the schools.
But they can't do it alone, surely. Who else is involved? Are there key partners?
Oh, definitely. They actively build coalitions. Community partners are crucial. This includes collaborators like churches, other civil rights groups, local education advocacy organizations, anyone who can help broaden the reach and impact.
Makes sense.
And critically, parents and students aren't just seen as beneficiaries. They're positioned as active drivers of change. Their stories, their experiences in these successful schools, their advocacy for implementing these best practices locally, that's incredibly powerful. They become the living proof.
Okay, so bringing this all together, we've talked about the mission, the goals, the 4-stage plan, the people driving it. What does this mean for the bigger picture? Beyond finding these bright spots for Black students, why should everyone listening care? How is this a tool for broader reform?
Well, I think it fundamentally changes the nature of the policy conversation around education. It shifts the debate away from just focusing on limitations or blaming schools and teachers or arguing about deficits.
Right.
Instead, it pivots to excellence, to possibility, to measurable performance. Think about the political climate. When some argue that public schools are inherently broken or unfixable, especially in certain communities,
Hmm.
this campaign provides a powerful evidence-based counter-narrative. It says, wait a minute, success is happening right now within the public system when the right conditions are met. It basically proves that equity isn't just a nice idea or a moral goal. It can be a measurable outcome.
And the evidence they're gathering, the strategies from these successful schools, it seems like they point to something universal.
Exactly. That's a key realization. The strategies they identify, the ones helping Black students thrive and meet that demanding 2.0 GPA standard, often turn out to be the same strategies that benefit all students.
Can you give examples of those universal keys? What keeps popping up?
Well, the things you might expect, but documented with proof. Consistently high expectations for all students. Adequate and equitable funding, for smaller class sizes, up-to-date materials, proper
Right,
facilities.
the resources matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great teachers, obviously, but also teachers who are well supported with meaningful professional development and culturally relevant training. A supportive school climate, schools that move away from overly punitive discipline and focus on restorative practices.
And community involvement.
Deep community and parent involvement, yes. Schools that genuinely partner with families. These elements seem crucial across the board.
So these aren't necessarily radical new ideas, but the campaign is proving they work, specifically for students often facing the biggest systemic barriers.
Precisely. By documenting that these specific elements lead to measurable excellence, even against significant odds, the campaign provides a clear roadmap. It's a universally applicable guide for creating schools where every student, regardless of background, can genuinely succeed. It sets an objective standard we can hold systems accountable to. As the campaign leaders themselves put it, and this sums it up well, every child deserves the opportunity to achieve. With unity and resolve, our community and our nation can and must make education, equality, and equity a reality.
The power in that approach is really clear. It's proactive, it's focused on solutions, not just problems,
Hmm.
and it's grounded in a tough, specific data threshold, 50% proficiency, that 2.0 GPA minimum, meaning no failing grades. They've essentially built a blueprint based on existing success.
They have. And that's where the real challenge and maybe the most important question emerges.
Hmm.
If we accept that the strategies for success, great teaching, proper funding, high expectations, supportive environments are pretty universal.
And this campaign is doing the hard work of finding them, documenting them, creating these actionable playbooks. Then it really forces a question for you, for everyone listening. What is the biggest systemic barrier stopping these proven models from being replicated everywhere? We know what works now. The evidence is there. So the next hurdle isn't discovery, it's implementation. It's about political will, resource allocation, and holding leaders accountable for making these evidence-based changes happen for all kids, not just in a few bright spots. What's really standing in the way?